We are just over a week away from the NBA draft, and today the reports are absolutely spiraling. A new favorite for the Sixers at number 3 on the mock draft. Also, Ace Bailey's draft stock reportedly plummeting. Lots of speculation as to why, but I did some deep diving, went deep into the rabbit hole, and I think I finally figured out why. We'll talk about that. Also, a couple teams could be willing to trade up, and maybe we saw the first domino fall today. And does VJ really make sense as the best fit? We'll talk about all of it and more right here on Philly Take with RB. But welcome in to the show. We're going to start it off right away with a quote from Jonathan Givony of Draft Express. He has done an amazing job over at ESPN, collecting all the clips of these players, being at the combine, talking to people. He said that he has talked about Ace Bailey more than any player in this draft. And here's the quote of the day. He says, he scares people because they don't want to draft him. And he also scares people because they're worried if they don't draft him, he's going to become a star and make them look very stupid. I think that encapsulates the feeling about Ace Bailey. This is not new information. We have mentioned this multiple times in the recent weeks. He's the most polarizing player. You don't know whether to take the risk, but the question is, how far do you want to reach? Is it worth it? I've said yes. I think at number 3, you have to take the gamble and try to pick a player who you think is going to turn into an all-star. But some teams may not be willing based on things they have heard. But are you really going to let this one slip you by? I mean, it's a big question, and do the Sixers stay at number 3? So that's how teams feel about Ace Bailey. I personally still think that he is a good investment. However, there have been some conflicting reports today that could change your mind. Here's the first one from Jonathan Givony. He says that Ace Bailey's draft stock has reportedly been falling due to his unwillingness to visit several teams and the fact that he has yet to conduct a single workout. So that takes us over to the article. Let's talk about it because the newest mock draft was put out today, and they have clear-cut VJ Edgecombe, number 3, to the 76ers, right? And we'll talk about him in just a few moments. But it says that he appears to be the leader in the clubhouse, with Ace Bailey losing momentum after refusing to visit, initially unsatisfied with his search for a proven pathway to development. However, Bailey is scheduled to work out in Philly at the end of the week. We will see if he's able to sway the tides. The feedback from his interviews at the Combine were not all that positive. Some teams expressed concern about his lack of preparation and focus. NBA execs say Bailey has been polarizing in internal front office convos because of questions about his feel for the game and lack of polish, creating a wider draft range than initially anticipated. Ace Bailey has some interesting things going on here, right? And then they also add later on, if we scroll down to where they actually have him at number 6, some teams question whether Bailey has received assurance of being selected by a team currently outside the top 5 to a situation deemed more advantageous from a geographic and playing time perspective. Bailey's pre-draft workout strategy has perplexed some observers as he has yet to conduct a single known workout to date, having declined invitations from several teams within his draft range. Bailey's camp has informed interested teams that they believe he's a top 3 player in the draft, but he also seeks a clear pathway to stardom, perhaps feeling comfortable that a team will trade up to get him at 3 or 4 should he drop. Some of this does not add up. Some of it does not make any sense, right? There's a couple things that could be going on here. Number 1, Ace Bailey is trying to stay away from teams like New Orleans and Washington and Utah because simply he doesn't want to go there. I don't blame him. There are certain players that have come before that don't want to go to the bottom feeder organizations and watch their careers float away. We've also seen players do this before when they have maybe 1 or 2 teams that they're penciled in on, right? Teams have assured them, if you drop, we are going to pick you, so they cancel workouts. But it is interesting that he has not worked out with any team. However, he has now scheduled a workout with Philly at the end of the week, and we get a follow-up here from Adam Aronson, who says that a Sixer source refuted the statement from Jonathan Givony, saying that Bailey never refused to visit. He'll be in town this week. So he is working out with the Sixers this week. And yeah, I am not worried about the declining invitations whatsoever. But the thing that kind of piques my curiosity more is the pathway to stardom. Does that mean that he's not going to be willing to buy in on day one as a rookie, maybe as an off-ball catch and shoot guy with defensive upside? Is he going to be a guy that can fit around 3 superstars and is willing to play that role and not have 20 touches and 10 shots every single night in the first half? Those are serious questions that we have to take into consideration. But at the same time, if Ace Bailey wants a pathway to superstardom, then why is he not meeting with some of these other lesser teams, right? Because the Wizards, the Nets, the Pelicans, those are the teams where you're going to get those opportunities. You know what I mean? So there are some things that don't really add up in this equation. But the other thing that could be going on here is Ace Bailey has bad representation. And there was a tweet today from Jeff Goodman who says that Ace Bailey's agent, Omar Cooper, wanted to get paid to do on-camera interviews this past season. It seems as though Ace Bailey has received some poor advice over the past year, has rubbed people the wrong way. So I ended up doing a complete deep dive. So I looked up his agent, Omar Cooper, who is running Lifestyle Sports Agency. He currently has 3 different clients. The only one of name recognition in the NBA, or soon to be, is Ace Bailey. He also represents some WNBA players, but other than that, doesn't have a lot of clients in the portfolio. And I found out that Omar Cooper, Ace Bailey's agent, is the father of Sharif Cooper, who, if you remember, fell in the 2021 draft. And Sharif Cooper's actually a player I liked in that draft, maybe near the end of the first round. He is now playing overseas in France, I believe it is. Omar Cooper initially had launched AOT, which was Athletes of Tomorrow, an AAU team in Georgia, where Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper played for. A couple other NBA players have played there. Ace Bailey also attended the same high school as Sharif Cooper. So what's going on here? Back in 2020, Omar Cooper ends up launching a sports agency called Lifestyle Sports. He takes on Ace Bailey as a client. He also used to have Isaac Okoro as a client, but Okoro switched over to Excel, which is one of the bigger agencies. And Okoro also played on the AAU team at one point as well. And Omar Cooper, like we just read, reportedly wanted to get paid for interviews this past season. So overall, this is some interesting stuff, some connections here. It may not mean anything at all, but to me, it starts to sound a little bit like a guy who is kind of going with the family friend, right? Or the guy that he knows that he used to play for with his AAU team, rather than being represented by one of the bigger agencies. And maybe that has led to some bad decision making or some things that are rubbing people the wrong way. Give me your thoughts. Do you still want Ace Bailey? Do you want VJ Edgecombe? Let me know down below. Well, let's talk about VJ Edgecombe, because VJ's already said and done, right? And it's starting to feel like he is the favorite for the Sixers. And according to today's piece, he is the leader in the clubhouse for the Sixers with the 3rd overall pick. So if we go up to VJ Edgecombe, right, they talked about his great dinner and making good impressions on the Sixers leadership. Should Edgecombe not be selected, most teams expect him to be drafted 1 pick later by the Charlotte Hornets. So it also mentions in this article that the Spurs are pretty much sold on Dylan Harper. So the reports last week don't seem to be anything of validation. And San Antonio is excited to add Dylan Harper to the mix. So as we already know, it's starting to feel like VJ's the favorite. Daryl Morey believes in this 3-star core and believes that they can still compete next year if healthy. And it feels like he's going to make the more win now pick unless they decide to trade back. So my question is, with VJ Edgecombe, is the fit there? Because there's been a lot of contradictory statements in my replies. And a lot of the people that have been telling me that the Sixers can't play Maxey and McCain together long-term due to the lack of size want to draft VJ Edgecombe, who, by the way, is 6'4", 6'5" on a good day with a 6'5", 6'6" wingspan. So he's an undersized 2-guard. And if you draft VJ, you're going to have Maxey, McCain, most likely Grimes, and VJ as well. These guys are going to need to play minutes. So how does that fit work? And I know people say at the top of the draft, you don't draft for fit, you draft for talent. I agree. But at some point, you're going to have to deal with it, just like right now with the things that people are saying about Maxey and McCain. And I really like VJ. I think he has a high floor. But again, he reminds me of like a supercharged role player. And I don't know if that is worthy of a number 3 pick. I mean, maybe you should trade back. Could there even be a possibility where the Sixers are leaking things about Ace to try to move back, to trade back and still get him at 5 or 6, right? That's another possibility. So there's a lot going on here. I know there's going to be a lot of back and forth with this, but I do think the fit on this team long-term matters, especially when you have to think about paying these certain guys. People are bringing up the Thunder, the Pacers, teams like that. Yeah, but at least some of their guards are 6'6". You know, they're oversized guards, and it really complements well with the length and the size. So things we have to think about. Maybe the Pelicans could be trying to move up and get Ace Bailey like we heard before, right? Jake Fisher says the Sixers are signaling to rival teams that they will listen to trade offers on the 3rd pick up until they're on the clock next week. And today we saw a trade happen. That's right. The team that's in the NBA Finals, who's now down 3-2, is making deals. Indiana has traded their number 23 pick to the New Orleans Pelicans, along with the draft rights to Mojave King, for Indiana's own 2026 first-round pick back, which the Pelicans had previously acquired. Smart deal for Indiana. By acquiring their own first, the Pacers now can trade first in 26, 28, 30, and 32. Plus, they have swaps in the odd years. So they also save money to try to re-sign a guy like Miles Turner. They get their first back in 26. But I was thinking about the other side of this, and the Pelicans now have 7 and 23. So we've talked about the Wizards at 6 and 18. What if the Pelicans come to you and they offer you a player and 7 and 23? Are you then willing to move back? I mean, it's something you have to consider. It doesn't seem like Ace is the favorite anymore. The Ace stream could be over. It might be VJ to Philly, which I'm not mad at from a talent perspective, but I do think the fit has to come into the conversation. And I think in the long term, the Sixers have to be aware of what is the best decision for this basketball team. Because in my opinion, it sounds great to add the win now piece, but there's still not that much confidence or certainty right now in Joel Embiid and Paul George. I mean, we still don't even have an update yet on Joel Embiid. So these are things that we need to keep in mind. Lots of great stuff today from Jonathan Givony of ESPN, and I can't wait to see how the next week plays out. Give me your thoughts down below right now. Who do you think the Sixers should go for? Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, or somebody else? Or should they trade the pick? Give me your thoughts down below. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.